Hello, how are you guys doing today? Alright, what's up guys? Today I'm going to do something a little bit different in the sense that I am actually going to create a video showing you guys how you should tackle the CCNA exam. So basically a little bit background, I passed my CCNA exam about 4 months ago. Was it 4 months? 4 or 5 months ago, and so I wanted to more or less share my experiences with you guys, and for anyone who's planning to take the exam and stuff like that. Okay, so let's start. So just a brief overview now. So the cost of exams at the time of this recording is 300 USD, and you can actually register for it at pearsonview.com, or you can just go to your nearest Pearson VUE authorized center and register for it. But if you are going to register for the exam online, you are going to need a credit card. Okay, so one question that I usually hear from people is what time is needed to tackle this exam. Now, this is not a straightforward question where I can just give you a straightforward answer. It really depends on a lot of factors. So it depends on how much time you dedicate towards studying it. It depends on what's your previous knowledge of this topic. And of course, your determination and perseverance levels. I mean, if you're not determined and you don't persevere, you're more or less likely to quit midway throughout studying and stuff like that, and you do not really want that to happen. And of course, for someone who have a lot of experience in the networking field, more or less, they probably would not even need to study for this exam. So it really depends on a lot of factors. For me, I'm going to tell you guys that my determination levels was more or less very poor, because if I remember correctly, like I started studying for this exam around 2010 on and off. So I basically studied for the first part, which was the ICND one. I studied for it for about, let's say, about 3 to 5 months, and then school started back. So I was like, yeah, just forget about this, I'm just gonna go to school and blah blah blah. So I mean 2011 came, and I was all hyped up again. I said, yes, it's time to study. And of course the same thing happened. I did put in more studies and stuff like that, but I did not persevere, and I was not determined enough, so I ended up quitting midway also. So it wasn't until recently where I really cracked down to it, and I was like, yes, I need to really get this thing done. And I'm going to say that it was really more or less thanks to the motivation I gained from one of a new friend that I made in Costa. His name is Amrit, in case you guys were wondering. So it really depends. I mean, for someone who's determined, who's new to the networking field, I'm pretty positive he can finish it in 2 months or less. And just so you guys know, before I took the CCNA exam, I had no prior knowledge of networking. Although I did do the A+. Okay, I never did the A+ exam, but I did the I read the A+ book, so I had knowledge of A+. So you do not really need working experience and stuff like that. And lastly, the exam isn't very hard. When I did it, a lot of people say, oh, you need to really study very hard and do XYZ and blah 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 blah. And, the exam is very hard and blah. The exam isn't really hard if you prepare for the exam well. I mean, as a matter of fact, I over prepared for the exam. I'm going to tell you guys that. So I just want to show you guys what I could have done better. So the last thing for this overview is the question of if you should access training services. In my opinion, right, if you are going to pay for it, then no. Where I'm living, schools offer the CCNA course for about 2000 USD. And frankly, although I've never been to any one of them, I more or less think that they are a waste of time, because you can just probably get some books, get some videos, and start your own training. Go at your own pace. You do not need to worry about if the class is going too slow, if it's going too fast. You're learning at your own pace, and I kind of believe that will be the future of education, where more or less all the students learn on their own and at their own pace. So, but of course, there is an advantage of actually going to taking training, in the sense that you can network with other people in the networking field. So I mean that's really a good advantage and something for you to consider. But I mean, if you're going to pay 2000 US just for a chance to probably meet people in the networking field, then yeah, I really do not recommend it. I mean, it's your money, so it's really up to you. So the materials you need, and generally the two most well-known authors for this for covering the CCNA exam is Wendell Odom and Todd Lamb. Which one should you choose now? That's a good question. For me, I chose the Wendell Odams one. And it was more or less because the main reason I would say is because of the practice exams that came with it. I mean, those practice exams were like 2 to 3 times harder than the real thing. And if you could have aced those practice exams, then you are more or less guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but about 99.9% sure that you are going to pass the real thing. Todd Lamb books, they are more or less, they are easier to digest. He writes his book in a more of a friendlier manner per se, and it's generally not so boring to read versus the Wendell Odums one. But again, Wendell Odums one has a bit more information in it. So, and also for me, I do not mind the official textbook feel to Wendell's Odom book, because I actually prefer that writing style. So yeah, I'm gonna say I prefer Wendell Odom, but a lot of people, they are gonna prefer the Todd Lamb's one. And just to give you a quick look, this is the Todd Lamb's version and this is the Wendell's Odom version. And as I said, I prefer the Wendell Odom version mainly because they come with free practice exams, so I do not need to spend money on paying for the practice exam. So something for you to consider. I mean, you could purchase both if you want, because I believe that the practice exam alone is worth $38. So it's really up to you. If you're a guy who tends to get bored fast from reading book, then you probably are better off purchasing Todd Lamb's version. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your money, so decide wisely. So what videos to use? Well, the CBT Nuggets by Jeremy Chira is actually pretty good. I mean, I loved it because he actually conveyed the material in an easy to digest manner, and he was not boring. So that was actually very important. I could actually watch 2, 3, 4 videos in a row without being like, oh my god, I need to close this. This is so boring. He's an enthusiastic guy, and he's a great lecturer. But the downside to this is that he charges, well, not he personally, but the company he works for charges $700 US in order to stream the course for 6 months, which I think is extremely overpriced. So, I mean, if you have the money, you probably could pay for it, but I really do not recommend you pay for it. Well, okay, unless you're a legal guy, because I'm a pirate, so I visit piratebay.org. But I mean, if you're a legal guy, you don't want to break any laws, well then yeah, you can actually pay the $800 for the package, CCNA package. The other option is the Brand Advantage ones by Chris Bryant, and he was actually the author of the Train Signals CCNA videos, and they were extremely boring. Oh my goodness. I mean, I watched the first video, like the intro video, and I was just like yeah, frig this, man, I'm just probably gonna be like Vagrant or something. But I believe recently he made his own videos, and his website is the Bryant Advantage. Advantage. Yes, this. He also sells his own ebook. You could check out his ebook too, also, if you want. But it's 20. How much is it? This is $20. I don't know how much it's for, but I read his book and it was pretty good. But I'm not so sure if it's worth spending an extra amount of money in it. But hey, if you got a cash, I mean, it's something you could check out. But one thing to note is I've been convinced a lot on the forums and stuff that we should have more than one reading material and stuff like that. But from my experience, it is much better if you just choose one reading material, and just one, because it helps you to become a bit more focused. I mean, if you have the Wendell Odom books, you have the Todd Lamb book, you have the Chris Bryant ebook, and you're just gonna go through each one of them piece by piece, and you might end up losing concentration. So I believe that you should aim for efficiency, and you can do exactly that by choosing from one main source. So again, the videos are by Jeremy Chira, actually great. It supplemented the book very well, because Jeremy is a guy who can explain concepts in layman's terms. So, and he's obviously not boring, a very enthusiastic fella. Okay, so the equipment. Okay, this is a good question. Should you purchase real equipment or should you use simulation programs? Well, for me, I purchased the real thing. So I actually had four routers and 3 switches. I did my research on what to buy, and I'll be honest with you guys, I am regretting it a lot, because the reason for that is because, I mean, these these machines, they take space, they take time to boot up, and you probably will lose a lot of time just from just trying to boot things up, shut things down, and stuff like that. And you need to make sure, and you probably need to deal with headache of to make sure that the equipment is working, that they are not dead on arrival, and stuff like that. So for the CCNA level, I really do not recommend you purchase the real equipment. I mean, a lot of people are going to argue that the real thing is the real deal. And yes, I agree that to a certain extent. For example, I mean, people are going to argue that, okay, well, you will encounter problems with the real equipment that you will never encounter in a simulation program. For example, I mean, you could probably insert the cable wrong, or something went bad inside the switch and you can troubleshoot it. But I mean, if you really look at it at the CCNA level, more or less, companies will not let you touch their equipment. More or less, if you do even get near the equipment, it's probably to do a couple of show commands to check out the status of the router and stuff like that. So there's the main reason why I think that, yeah, you really shouldn't buy it. But I mean, if you can afford it, I mean, by all means, you can actually purchase it. It's no big deal. I'm not gonna say that it is much wiser to use a simulation program, but I mean, from my experience, I think it's much more efficient to use a simulation program. And I guess you could just purchase it for the heck of it. I mean, just because simulation programs do not let you emulate everything. Well, that's with the exception of GNS3. Okay, so just allow me to talk a bit about the simulation programs. The two main programs we have is Packet Tracer and GNS3. Packet Tracer was developed by Cisco and is actually for the Cisco Academy students, but I mean, you can access that program in certain websites. For example, I'm a pirate, so I guess I'll give you a hint of where you can actually access that program. And GNS3 is basically an emulation. Well, it is actually a GUI interface on top of the Dynanips, which allows you to emulate Cisco iOS. So you actually get everything. But the only thing about GNS3 is that it only emulates router images. It does not emulate switch images, because I believe it was because Cisco did not release the specifications for the ASCIIs and the ASICs, or whatever the hell you call that, in the switches. So at the end of the day, I believe for CCNA, you'll probably only need Packet Tracer. Anything else is just overkill. A lot of people are going to disagree on me on this, but I mean, hey, you are listening to advice from a guy who has bought real equipment and who has worked with GNS3 and who has worked with Packet Tracer. Okay, so plan of attack. So in this slide, we're actually going to talk about how you should go about studying for this exam. So obviously, you buy the book and you read the book, and you do the labs as you go along. Do the Packet Tracer labs. Then you review the end of the chapter questions. So I mean, for example, if you read a topic on, I don't know, on switches, then you probably want to go through the review questions. And if you get like 1 or 2 questions wrong, then you should, read over the topics that you missed out on. That's very important. Just keep on rereading. So what you can also try to do is try to explain the topic to a real or imaginary person, and this really assesses whether you know your stuff. If you do not know it, most likely you probably will not know how to explain it to an audience. So lab your ass out. This is very important. Just do labs. Oh, and one thing, I suggest the pre-made labs. So if you actually go on Google, these are the labs here, right? These are the pre-made labs, which are specifically made for Packet Tracer. So just search for Packet Tracer labs. And there you go. Just click on this link with the Cisco Learning Network. And if you scroll down, this is all the labs. So basically, the idea behind the pre-made lab is that they create a certain scenario and they tell you, well, do X, Y, Z. And after you finish X, Y, Z, they will basically grade you afterwards. In my opinion, these labs help me so much, and I'm sure it probably help you also. So lab your ass out. That's very important. And finally, after you read the book, you ensure that you retain about at least 90% of the information. You lab your ass out, and then you proceed to do practice exam. And now, this is very important. Do not try to memorize answers, right? That is very, very important. If you try to memorize answers, and let's say you do the exam again, then you have a false sense of security in the sense that you got 100, you're feeling happy, you're feeling you're all ready to go, but when in truth it is really because you memorize the answers, so you more or less got 100. So do not ever try to memorize answers. If you do not know something, just skip it, plain and simple. And as I said earlier, Wendell Odom exams, I mean, they are great. For the price, for $37 for book and practice exam, I think that it's the steal of a deal. Wendell Odom exams are like 2 to 3 times more difficult than the real exams. So if you can score above 90 or above 85, then more or less you can say that you are safe to go. But before I went to do my exam, I actually aimed for 100. So, and it actually paid off. So while you are doing the practice exams, ensure that you know why each one of the answer is right and why each of the wrong answer is wrong. I mean, this is very important. This ensures that you really know your stuff. Okay, so the tips now, so the study tips. You need to know your show commands. I think a lot of people tend to ignore them. They just think, well, I need to configure EIGRP. But there are actually questions in the exam that are dedicated to testing your knowledge of the show commands. So make sure you know the show commands. A little tip for you guys, when I did the exam, I used the handy show run. I mean, that command was so beautiful because, I mean, after so much lab, I actually knew what to expect when I do a show run. So, whenever I was doing a simulation, I had to troubleshoot. Basically, what I did was show run. And I would just like determine like 2-3 problems in one go instead of, well, maybe I should show XYZ and show XYZ. I mean, in the real world, you probably will not want to do that because, I mean, in the real world, you have like complex networks, but for the CCNA, the simulations aren't very complex. So that's why I love my show run command. I mean, learn your show run command. Make sure you understand what is what in the show command. And make sure you understand what you can expect after you insert a certain command. So the next thing is you need to be able to subnet fast. I mean, like, you need to probably do a subnet problem 8 to 12 seconds or even less. And the way these subnetting questions come is they don't really ask you directly like what is the subnet of blah blah blah. They actually require that you subnet tons of network in order to get the answer for a certain question. So you definitely need to subnet fast. So before the big day, what you do is basically you review whatever topics you're still not 100% sure about. You do more practice exams. So if you're comfortable with everything, just chill out. And actually, I've read in a lot of forums where they claim that you should just chill for the whole day before the exam because I mean, if you don't know your stuff, then most likely you won't know it. And I think that's a load of crap because I personally believe that this best time to study is actually one day before. Okay, well, it's not the best time to study, but I mean, if you study one day before, then there's a high chance that you retain some of the knowledge that, I mean, that is gonna come on the next day. So, I mean, I love cramming. I don't know about other people. Okay, so on the exam day now, you're gonna be nervous. I mean, I admit it, when I went to the exam room, I was like, yeah, shit, I'm so nervous, what I'm gonna do, my hands was shaking a little bit. Then I just sit down, I was like, just kind of talk to myself, and I was just like, yeah, it's no big deal if I fail this exam, it's not the end of life, and it calmed things down a little bit. It didn't do much, but it calmed down my nerves a little bit. So no, usually before you start the exam, Cisco actually give you this kind of mini exam. Well, it's not going for any marks, but it's more or less to demonstrate to you the different types of questions. I suggest that you take your time and go through it. It will not take from your time from the exam, so I mean, or you chillax, sit back on your chair, answer the questions, A, B, C, D. If there's simulation, you do your simulations, you put on an exam and you profit. Boom, you come out of the exam, you pass it with whatever score, you get out, and after that, Cisco will actually email you a certification package where they give you a little ID card with your name in it, and they give you a certificate saying, oh, well, your XYZ has passed the requirements to become a Cisco certified network associate, all that fancy crap. I mean, the certificate look pretty nice, so should make sure you pass the exam, make sure you study hard enough, and make sure you lab enough, and make sure you practice subnetting. I mean, there's a good website for it since we are talking about subnetting. Subnetting is a big thing, so I mean, and to actually show you guys a site for it. Subnetting questions, was it? Yeah, this is subnetting. Yes, just what is the blah blah blah, and you reveal answer, next question. This is a great site. I mean, I use the site a lot. Okay, so that I covered that. Those are the two books. This is the website to sign up. Okay, I guess I remember these apps are very useful, so make sure you check them out. Alright, well, I guess that's it. I hope you guys found this video to be informative, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and good luck in your exams. Toodles!